Hey friends, I'm Leslie.
Hey guys, I'm Marianne.
And I'm Angie. Together, we are the therapists of Eden Therapy Co., and we are inviting you to have a seat at Eden's table.
Coming to you live from Miami, we believe in healing hearts, shining the light, and bridging the gap in mental health. Come sit with us as we learn, laugh, and explore how faith and mental health collide. Hey, how was y'all's day today?
Today's been a good day, a long day, but a good day.
All right, so are you guys excited to start this podcast, to do this? Yeah, I'm excited. The technical difficulties have been fun.
Yeah, very. It's been a wild ride, people.
But we're here.
Been a minute.
And we're here.
Yeah.
I'm excited that this is our first episode and that we get to talk about a topic that's pretty prevalent in our society, right?
So, Angie, tell us the heart of this podcast.
Why are we here?
This?
Why are we doing this? So a long time ago, I felt that we should have as many tools given to people as possibly can, because not everybody can come into our office and see one of us.
Yeah.
But there's so many ways to communicate, and we can write books, we can give out free resources, our newsletter. But this is a new platform. And quite honestly, when Marianne came into the mix of Eden Therapy Co., this really is an anointed space for her. I think just happen to think you're really good at it.
And I think you just think I'm really good at it.
You are. But Leslie doesn't fall short either.
Oh, wow.
She's been on a few podcasts too. But the point being that I had all the marketing material, that I had looked the research, all of it, and I gave it to you. And I was like, here. And then God started being like, what about you? What about Eden?
I
And
did
was
nothing with the resources you gave me. I was like, okay.
To be fair, it was your first year being a therapist.
It was,
so
yeah.
you were still learning.
I feel like I have bigger vision for it. But this is a nice project.
And both of you had a lot of opportunities to do podcasts. And so I said, all right, Lord, if this is something you wanted us to do, then open up the path for us to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So I would say that the heart behind this podcast is really to give others tools.
Yeah.
You may not be able to sit with us one-on-one. You may not even be able to afford therapy, but hopefully something that we say will touch your heart, something that we'll say will help you. And I always say we're here to heal hearts,
Shine the light.
and
Bridge the gaps.
and so we're hoping that's exactly what we do in this podcast.
Yeah. First one, let's get it.
Let's go. Okay, so our awesome coach, shout out Coach Chris, he started teaching us how to do a podcast, I think, at the beginning of this year. And so one of the questions that he was asking us was, what fears do we have, like, heading into this podcast space? And for me, I'm not that I'm fearless, because fear is a feeling that we feel, but I just try to gather all the information and I jump. And so that's basically what we did, what I felt for us to do with the podcast. No, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what equipment we need. I don't know anything. So I started asking different people, hey, what is it like to produce a podcast? I started thinking of different people who had podcasts and thinking like, oh, maybe they could help us. And that led me back to Coach Chris, who has been the biggest blessing for all of us, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as fear, I'm like the one that's let's jump and we'll figure it out along the way. Even today, like, we may have had like tons of microphone issues, but it's just like, all right, here we are. Let's jump into it. Let's do it. Right.
Yeah.
How do you all deal with the fear of the unknown?
I feel like you are like my fear's biggest fear. Not one of those, I'm going to jump and figure, absolutely not, I'm not jumping until I know what I'm going to land on. So I think for me, for the unknown is just so scary because there's no control in the unknown. And I'm one of those that likes to have like control as much as possible, you know?
That's so funny. For me, it's more of just like fear of failing, fear of not doing it well enough, or not being good enough, or saying the wrong thing, like making mistakes, which is like dumb, because now that you hear it out loud, you're like, duh. You're going to make a ton of mistakes and you'll learn along the way. And
Marianne, I don't think that it's dumb. And actually listening to something that you're saying about making mistakes. So I have dyslexia. I had dyslexia growing up. And so for me, it was just, you got to figure it out, kid. Yeah. And on top of that, like, I moved all my life. Mm-hmm. So it was like every 5 years I was in a new environment. And again, it's like, you got to figure it out. So it's not dumb. It's just sometimes that's just how life is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't see it as, and yeah, Leslie, you may say that you have to have everything figured out. I disagree. What did you have figured out when we started Eden?
I figured out I wanted to be here. So everything,
not having any control of anything.
Feeling good. That was the bravest thing I've ever done in my life. It's okay.
It worked out. Yeah. It worked out. And so I think sometimes we think that we have to have it all figured out. And I think that fear can keep us stuck because if I had to figure everything out right away of how to run a podcast or how to even be like somebody who can pour into the younger generation, then we probably wouldn't be sitting here because all of Eden and everything that comes out of Eden, and I want you guys to know, is really the blood, sweat, and tears of us. There's no financial backer yet.
Sponsorships are welcome. If you would like to invest in Eden Therapy Co., send us an email.
But it really is. So it's done with a lot of heart and it's done with a lot of hard work and a lot of sacrifice. Yeah. So when it comes to fear, we like to talk about false evidence appearing real.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And do any of you want to say a little bit more about that?
I think our minds lie to us. And fear tells us everything that can go wrong and will go wrong. And going just into, okay, what are some solutions for that? What do you do with that? For me, it's learning to talk back to myself. Okay, I feel afraid, and being afraid is just a feeling, right? Just because I feel something doesn't make it true. So I fight the feeling with what's actually true. I don't know what's ahead, but what's true is that I'm capable of figuring it out, facing whatever comes my way and doing my best with it. And that's all I can do with that. And so talking myself through it.
Yeah. I always tell myself feelings are not facts. So right. What are the facts? What is the truth? What has been like my history? And the history has always been like God has always made a way. And I think that's why, even though I've struggled with fear for so long, one of the ways that God has delivered me from that has been because of surrender, of being able to just let go, release control of what I can't control and just take ownership for what I do control.
I think one of the things I hate the most about fears is that it is a liar. But it also keeps people stuck. And I hate when people are stuck because we're not stuck anywhere unless you're a little kid. And then, yes, there are times when you will be stuck because you're stuck with your family.
That's funny. Actually are stuck as a kid. But never mind that.
But as an adult, we're not stuck and we don't have to be stuck in fear. Yeah. We can take the true evidence. What does God say? What do our friends say? What does our family say? What do people that really know us say? And if that can become our truth, then we can move forward confidently. Yeah. And as I was thinking about fear, I was also thinking about identity. Because I think fear is unstable. And so sometimes when we're thinking about fear, we feel like we're on shaky ground. And I have an amazing father that has always provided and has always been there for me. But I think sometimes when we don't have that, we can do that with Father God. And if he is the solid foundation on which I stand, then why am I fearing? To your point, Leslie, if he's taken us this far, why wouldn't he take us the rest of the journey?
Yeah, exactly. I think one of my favorite, which we had talked about this, you had written this down. You want to say it? Joyce, my first time hearing this was Joyce Mayer. And she basically said, sometimes you just have to do it afraid, which is the thing that you had. Because a lot of things, like you were going back to saying, you can feel stuck. And if you feel stuck, you're not going to move. So fear can paralyze people and it keeps you from doing the things that you want to do. And so sometimes people will be like, I can't do it because I'm afraid. And our response has consistently been, well, the fear's not going to necessarily go away. You still have to do the things you want, even if your knees are shaking, even if you're afraid. You can't let that stop you from living the life that you want to live.
Yeah. So good. Do it afraid. Do it afraid.
My girl Joyce, shout out.
I go back to identity. And when your identity is a little more solid and you are living in a place where the ground is more solid, you can take a jump and you don't have to fear so much.
How do we get that solid ground?
Yeah. That's a good one. It's hard because a lot of us were brought up in situations where the ground was always moving or it was always shaking. But I go back to the word of God, and I go back to God being that firm foundation. He's known as a cornerstone. And if you think of a cornerstone, it holds up an entire building. Like, this is who our faith is in.
Yeah.
And so even if something were to happen and it would be a big flop, it doesn't matter because you learn something from it and you move forward. And I'm not one of these people that wants to like spiritually bypass and be like, there's no fear in love. Like, you just have to have no fear. Cast all fears on the Lord. Because yes, and I think it's important to honor and to process and to look at what were the things that happened to us in childhood that maybe created that shaky ground. And then we can just move forward after we heal that with a new perspective and a new vision. How do you see that shaky foundation coming out in kids, like the kids that you treat, and what helps them?
I think a lot of times the shaky foundation looks like a lot of anxiety. And because when we're younger, we have a lot of black and white thinking, like our brain hasn't fully developed to be able to think abstractly. Like, we have to find a way of just labeling, okay, this is where my shaky foundation is, this is what's wrong, or this is what's bad, and this is what's good. And I think a lot of times that black and white thinking is what keeps us stuck, because it's this has to be that scary, or this has to be that bad, or this is the worst case scenario, and that's the only possibility that can happen. And I think a lot of times is just, first of all, like meeting the child there, like meeting them in that fear, and then letting them know like feelings again are not facts, and we're riding the wave of emotion, and at the same time being able to give them other possibilities and other options, and open their minds to see like opportunities that maybe they don't see, like a wider scope. That was good.
Yeah, so good. Marianne, what about fear in relationships? Because I know that you see a lot of couples and that there's definitely fear in relationships.
I mean, yeah, I think I was actually talking about this today with a client who, his experiences as a kid, like watching his parents argue or just fight with each other because of money, and that be ultimately what ended up having them get divorced. He subconsciously grew up to be super afraid of somebody taking him for all that he has. So he never committed or got married. He did commit, but not to the point of getting married, out of protection. So to your point, where does the fear come from? A lot of it is just what they saw as a kid, or in terms of relationship, and that's just an example for that person. But for other people, it's just maybe their own experiences in relationships have built fears. Like, if you've been cheated on, well, now, surprise, you're going to be afraid of other partners cheating on you, etc.
In the trauma world, a lot of times what I talk about is that fear of being in a relationship and somebody hurting that person again. And we actually were talking about this today during our lunch, or at the table, which is where we usually sit and talk, and how the mistake or the overpassing of boundaries by one person does not equate to like the entire population. And there are good people out there, and there are nice people out there. So really making sure that it's more generalized and not so much like that you take one person's actions and you split it into everyone.
Yeah.
Also, I think one of the biggest issues with fear when it comes to the brain is that it hijacks your frontal lobe. So you can't think properly. You can't make decisions in a way that you normally would. So like you have all these neurochemicals just floating out from your brainstem and your midbrain, and you just can't really make sense of the world around you when your brain is flooded. And so one of the things that I also say is, yes, do it afraid. And let's make sure that before we do it afraid, that we're really taking stock of a situation, because there is healthy fear.
Yeah.
And healthy fear is something might happen.
Yeah.
So let's make sure that I'm safe enough to do whatever it is that I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
I don't know.
You're thinking something.
No. Taking inventory of all the times that Leslie's been afraid.
I'm the shaky chihuahua meme, okay?
You are. This is the running joke of the office. Leslie's like, about things, and I'm like, except
this is Marianne's like, it's fine.
Everything's fine.
Leslie's like, did I do it right? Yeah. It's funny. But it works.
It worked. Yeah, it does.
It works really
You're like the middle ground because I feel like you can get to a point where you're just like worried about stuff, but for the most part, you're like pretty chill about things.
I don't think I've ever seen Angie worried.
She's been worried for sure. All of our events, like putting all the stuff on, like making sure that we have everything that we need and that things go well.
Important that things go well. Right?
I mean, obviously, yeah.
But we do jump. So let's talk about, okay, what do people do when they experience a lot of fear? What are things that you guys recommend to like clients or to people? Because we are about giving tools and it is the heart to be able to help. Let's say that I am feeling so much fear. What would you guys recommend I do?
One of the things that really has helped me has been, well, actually my therapist told me this, and he told me to bring all of the lies or whatever is keeping me, whatever the statement is that's keeping me in fear, to take it into the courtroom, and it has to stand on trial, right?
That's
and
great.
the jury, and if it can't stand, right, if there's not enough evidence that is in its case, then it lost. So then what's the truth? What's the actual verdict?
That's
and
great.
that has helped me so much because a lot of times I'm here like, oh my God, and I'm squirming and I have all of these lies. And again, it's not standing on trial.
Really
There's no
good.
case. And I think that's helped me a lot.
Yeah.
Why did I just see that all reenacted in miniatures in my
Yeah,
head?
yeah. And then in my mind, I literally saw a cartoon in my head.
You can't handle the truth.
And then there's like the Hispanic one. He's like, pero Ricardo Espinosa, por favor.
We have to bring the Spanish flair. I am human.
So how am I like, what do you want me to say? What if I'm scared in Spanish? What do you
Oh my God, yes. Scared and fearful in Spanish versus English. Quite the trial. Eh? I'm so scared.
She's stuck in fight or flight.
Marianne's frozen. She's
Like, what is it that you were saying, like Mr. Mosby, Ricardo Montoya? You ever watched Straight Left, Zach and Cody?
This is how you know our age. I don't really know who's Zach and Cody. Okay, so let's get back to it. I love the court.
We love the court. Put your thoughts on trial. Honestly, what has probably helped me the most is this, like the CBT exercise, which is what am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Okay, what are my feelings like telling me? And then what's the actual truth about the situation or whatever I'm fearing? And then hanging on to what's true, fighting it back, talking back to myself. It's really been a thing.
Copyright CBT chart over here.
Yeah.
We cannot copyright a CBT chart. It is a body of therapy, large research for many years. But we can copyright that we do put at the bottom. What does she say about this? Right. Which
And journaling, I also will say. Journaling, sometimes you just have to get it out, like all the...
what I love about journaling is that it uses right-left brain processing, which is what EMDR does, which is what other forms of therapy, creative therapies do. So it allows you to like really understand what's going on in your mind and process it through. And sometimes that's why when we finish journaling, we feel better.
Yep.
Yeah. So because I do it afraid a lot of times, or I wouldn't even say afraid, but I just jump into it and I'm like, all right, let's figure out how we do it from here. I love exposure therapy for fear.
Yeah.
So being able to do a fear ladder and what are you scared of and working up to the thing that is really fearful for you and then being able to conquer it. Last week, I worked with somebody who had fear of getting on a flight alone. And today I got the text message that they got there and the biggest bold letters that said, I can't believe I did this.
That's amazing.
It's so huge. It's amazing. I'm so proud of them. And I just can't wait to continue to see what breakthroughs are going to be in their life.
I love the fear ladder because I feel like you conquer the smaller fears, and on the way up, you build courage. Like you build bravery for the bigger one.
You guys want to share what the fear ladder is? For anybody that doesn't know what we're talking.
There's an intervention we do in therapy, eatingtherapygo.com. Thank you.
And do you know what the fear ladder is?
I know what the fear ladder is. You go step by step. Okay, like what's the max?
I just didn't know.
Right, least scary to the most scary, and then everything in the between. So it's like you go up the ladder. We want people to know what we're talking about.
Look it up. Google it. Okay, so I mentioned something pretty big earlier, which was about a spiritual bypassing. And while that could be its own episode, I think what happens sometimes in Christianity is that people just slap a verse on something about how you're supposed to feel better, and they don't hear out what it is that you have to say. So I think it's important to acknowledge that just because we're not about that. But we are about using scripture. So not from a place of like manipulation or shutting somebody up and not allowing them to really process what they're feeling and talk about what they're going through. What are some scriptures that are the truth of God that allow you guys to move through fear?
For me, I wrote Philippians 4:6, which says, "Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God."
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
One for me, it says, it's Isaiah 41:10, and it says, "So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand."
What's crazy is that I was going to use that verse, but then in my head, so sometimes I think in pictures, sometimes I think in songs, I started hearing the verse, "Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil." And that's Psalm 24, I believe. I think it's 24. But I love the idea that even if we walk through any kind of valley that's difficult, like he is always with us.
Yeah.
And so it goes back to, how do you remove the shaky ground? My ground when I was younger, it was shaky. We were moving every 5 years, different cultures, different languages. But as my therapist pointed out, God was always my constant. He was always with me. He was always there. And so building the foundation on God, which is where Eden is built on. It's built on God 100% through prayer, through fasting, through prayers of my friends that were very bold and saw it before I even did. That is really what our heart is built on. It's built on God.
God and community.
Yes.
God and people. That's awesome.
All right, ladies. So I'm sure that there is someone out there that is maybe trembling in the knees, like Marianne said, about to do something really scary or needing the encouragement to step out and do it afraid. What is one thing we can say to them?
I'm thinking.
Okay. So I would definitely say take a deep breath. Take a deep breath and just remember that you have people around you and that no matter what happens, everything always has a way of working out.
Yep.
Even if we fall, what do? We get up again. So take a deep breath and go, knowing that there's people behind you.
Yeah. And I think to my mind comes anything that comes your way, you're capable of handling or taking on as it comes. So if things don't work out, if trials like come across the way, like it's okay. You're more than capable of handling it and dealing with it as it comes. So just take a chance. Go for it.
Thank you for listening to our podcast today. And just remember, we want to create a space where you can come and sit with us.
Yeah. See you next time.
See ya.
Well, friends, thank you for tuning in. And remember, freedom is possible.
Join us next time at Eden's Table, where you can always sit with us.